But John, into day 2, and Cobblers, the excavator, is absolutely flying with Macro Man at the helm. He is ripping that stuff up, shall we say. It is going swimmingly well. Don't want to tempt fate, but you know, say it as it is. Yesterday was a little bit slow by Macro Man standard, purely because we were taking out Macro Man Point, which was an area of shelf that was jetting out into the lake, and we were happy with the name of it, but we thought it compromised the area for fishing. You know, it restricted quite a bit of area, so he had to drive out onto that shelf, which was obviously quite hairy, but also it took quite a bit of time. There's no point in getting a tractor in because it was a wet area of the shelf, and he couldn't get it sort of like far enough back in one go for a tractor to get to it. So he had to move it twice, which of course in excavation terms is a bit of a no-no, but it was just for that bit. And after that, he's all guns blazing. As always, he's an absolute joy to work with. He knows his stuff. He's been doing this for, I think it was like, I can't remember now, but it's over 20 years. And you know, Toon passes on instructions to him, and he's absolutely fine with it. If he's ever in doubt, he just gives her a call on the mobile. We'll come out, and Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt. He's just cracking on. Let's have a look how he's been doing then. If I wasn't so in love with him, I'd be telling him off for this. Never mind. The bit that he's doing now is going to be the deepest part of this lot of excavation. And this is just so we can drop the level of water in the lake. Fantastic. Now it's digging the dry stuff. Be able to get a tractor on here. When it's all a slop, like a mud cake, you can't really get the tractors on here. Not all the excavation is going to be as deep as he's digging now, so that's just to drop the level sufficiently. The rest of it's going to be about 2 meters, which doesn't sound that deep, but really we've got so many deep areas on the lake, so the majority of it is 4.5 meters. We can see now that there's a lot of fish species that like the shallow water. What we're just trying to do is create, I know it's not 100% natural environment, but an environment that you know, is supportive of all the species that we put in here. You know, so you've got your deep bits for your stuff like your Mekongs and your Siamese, and then you've got your shallow stuff for your sporting, like your barbs and tilapia. You know, medium depth shelves like 2 meters deep. The common carp love to be in there, and certainly at the moment, while the rohu are sort of like approaching a pound size, they like to be on there as well. So they've got loads of different depths, and still stuff that's growing in and around those areas that will help feed them with the naturals, with all the snails, the shrimp, and plenty of places for them to spawn. Not all the species in here will spawn. Some of them would need hormones for that to happen. And yeah, I think it's gonna, you know, we're in a chance for it to be nice and balanced. What we don't want to be doing, ideally, is continually restocking the lake. Although it's cheap enough, we would like to set it up that they can, you know, it can be sustained. You might be thinking, well, you've put your giant snakehead in here, mate, so that's not going to happen. It's always a case of trusting the guy and his experience and the process. It always looks horrific the first few days of the dig. You know, soil everywhere, looks giant, but when it's all sort of like leveled out, and then it starts to compress, drop down and balance, you know, it looks better the longer it stays. So all this outer shelf is going to be going, and it's going to try and shave a little bit off the edges here, leave a little bit of a shelf, like 1 meter out there. Should be good, should be really good. Although there are going to be designated fishing areas on here, I quite like roaming when I'm fishing, not just lure fishing, but you know, when you're having a walk round and you're looking for fish. That's what I've always sort of like grown up with when I was into carp fishing. You know, you go and locate the fish, and then you pop a bait on there. That's what we like to do. Places where you can sit down and get comfy, set in for the day or night or whatever. Yes, we will be doing night fishing, but also have lots of little nooks and crannies that you can go and put a hook in. Yesterday, Macro Man said he spotted a couple of really big bellot, which I didn't think they grew that big. I think it was sort of like a long-nosed spiky eel. So that was good. You never ever see them big out in our neck of the woods anymore. We put them in from the wild when they're about 1 or 2 inches long. We put a few in recently that were about 5 inches long. But he said these were as thick as your wrist, so that's fantastic. I said to Toon, you're not going to know what you're going to hook when you fish something like chicken liver or chicken heart. There's so many different native Thai species in here that we've put in and that have got in as well. The first half of the island can take a lot of soil, a lot. I mean, it's so soft from the high levels we had. But how he's gonna cope with doing it while it's this soft, I don't know. That was scary yesterday. I thought it was going to be all over before it started. You can see here where he put his spoon in to try and get some purchase to lift his tracks up, but his bucket just sank. Amazing. So I'd like all this area taken out ideally. Nice shallow bay. Now there is one unfortunate chain of events. Before we started yesterday, I showed you him digging a few spoons out for a biochar pit. Such is the water level. We've now got a nice well effect. I mean, it's crystal clear, but probably not conducive to doing a biochar burn. And I've got a lot to get through. I wanted to get this all burnt before he comes over and does this end. Bugger. I don't want to waste all the Lucina. It's bone dry. I mean, if I can get this done, it is going to be like the quickest biochar burn I've ever done. Amazing, all the hyacinth that got washed up onto here when the dam broke. Seems a million miles away now, but we just know it's potentially, it's just round the corner again every year. The rains come. Looking forward to doing the hyacinth beds. Really looking forward to doing the swims. Especially the glory hole swim over here. We're going to take about 1 metre or so of soil from around this island here. I reckon once we've taken this bit out of here and made a nice fishing area here, that's going to be a cracking looking swim. It narrows a little bit there and then it opens right out. Nice fish just coming up there. I'll say, because this is probably one of the deepest parts of the lake, the other deepest part is off Macroman Point. The Mekongs and Sawai prefer here, so I would imagine that the Siamese, when they get big, are going to frequent here as well. And then the narrower areas around the lake, you know, if you could target your smaller species like your rohu, marigals, all the different types of barbs that we got in here. You know, you'd probably get away with a waggler setup with that. At the moment, you can still use fishing poles. But generally speaking, when Toon and I fish the poles now, if we fish for about 3 hours, we'll probably get broken up twice. So it's getting to that threshold now where, you know, you need to have a running line, or you'd need some really heavy pole gear as an outfit. But once you get into that realms, I don't know about you, I tend to like pole fishing less if you're fishing really heavy gear. I'd rather have a running line with a waggler float, either that or a light feeder, something like that. So yeah, it'll be that would be perfect, that you've got areas that are known to hold the bigger stuff, and then you've got other areas where the smaller species would be hanging out, or they could be big species but they're juveniles. Yeah, you can adapt your tactics and your gear accordingly. But it's going to be a few years till the big stuff's really big. If we keep giving the palm nuts, I'm sure they'll grow very quickly. How's that for a sight, eh? That's enough to give me a twitch. Man and machine in perfect harmony. A herd of goats in a fishing lake. Alright, Brownie, where's your baby? Hey, not long is it, hey girl? That'll be a hat trick, or maybe 2. Good going, yeah, eh? Girls again, yeah? Yeah, PJ, I know you've been climbing on cobblers. Whenever he has his lunch now, he's parking up there because the goats climb all over cobblers. I think he's scared of getting little black jelly beans on his seat. Right, let's have a look, see how he's been getting on. Ooh, it is hot. The old Macon catfish are going to love this bit. That is proper deep. I reckon if we put an old car in here, we can have diving holidays as well. He was saying that the soil's still a little bit too wet for him to sculpture this raised bit here, so going to leave it a few days, and then before he leaves the job, he's going to come back here and, as Toon says, decorate it. We were hoping to be able to get on here and shove our moringa straight in and a few of the bits and bobs, but he said, can you just hold fire, and then he wants to leave it all looking nice, and then we'll stick them in. So not a hardship. Wow. Up the top. So it looks really high at the moment, probably because it is. But this is all wet, and if he drives on here now, it'll end up back in the lake. Leave it a while, get it dried out, then he'll balance it off. We'll stick the trees in, or the cuttings, and then it'll drop down a hell of a lot over time, like the rest of the island did. When we first had that done, we thought, flipping heck, it's way too high, and it sunk down to below the height of the outside shell. Sometimes it doesn't look a lot of progress when you're at ground level, but when you come up here like this, that's a serious amount of movement. As we've been going along, we've been getting a better picture of the size of the task and the soil situation, and creating bits that are good for the fish, bits that are good to hide the soil. So we were thinking about having this run all the way along here, take that out and leave this as a standalone island, wildlife island, but it's just too much soil to move, so we're going to leave an access road there. Then over here it's all going to come in both sides, so you can see all the dark shelf out there, all that'll be gone, thrown into the middle, both sides, built up round the house, high access road onto the island, and all levelled off. Looks a huge job. He's a day and a half into it. It's insane, isn't it? The fish are liking it. Bit of disturbance, bits of soil rolling into the lake, they're loving it. So one of the visions I've got, I have a few, is coming on here to this, I don't know what we call it, we can't call it an island on an island, but make your way around here, and then we're going to have a nicely levelled off area, sort of like halfway down the height of this built up area, and a lovely cool area, roof sections over the top, and then a swim in front of that, sort of like steps down to it, so you can stay nice and high and dry and cool, and then when you get a fish you can just run down and get your rods. What we do realise, some people like to fish a style of fishing where you're sat by your rod all the time, so there is going to be umbrellas as well right next to where you put your rods, not a problem. Toon's told him to give her a call when he's going to release the dam. Want to get that on film. That's going to be insane. Since he's been digging, we've seen tilapia, the Chinese silver carp, he's seen the balot, which I talked about, marigals, although they're only small. What else? We've seen the sawai, we haven't seen the makongs. They're quite shy at the moment, but yeah, a lot of fish have loved the disturbance. I've always associated fishing with trying to keep nice and quiet, and I've always been yakking Toon when I've been fishing, and then she comes and poaches my swim and starts smacking the pole tip in the water and throwing stones in. And I know it doesn't work in the UK, but it certainly seems to work out here. I don't tell her that though. We were night fishing the other week before the tiger was on the loose, and we had the head torches, and I put mine on super dim, and she was saying, you can't see your float. I said, I can just see me float. Hers was full power, shining straight into the water. I said, you're not even going to get a bite. You know, fish don't like a strong light on, you know, penetrating the water. She thrashed me, and never lets me forget it anytime we get the rods out and it's getting dark. What can't be underestimated, and I really do believe this, is once you've found a guy like Macro Man and you can trust them, because I mean, you can have, don't get me wrong, you can have a very skilled, experienced guy, but you can't trust them. This guy, we've got the best of both worlds. And just don't interfere too much. Yeah, make sure that you're happy with the design and he understands what you're after, but it's not so much give him a free rein, just let him do his thing. And not only will it be quicker, I think you stand a chance of getting a much better job than always stopping and starting him and, you know, changing this and changing that and questioning why he's doing this. I fully appreciate sometimes when you have a guy on site for the first time, you're on tender hooks and you want to make sure everything's done right. But we're in a very, very fortunate position that we know this guy. His boss is great, and it's just, you know, a job like this could be an absolute nightmare and a whole load of worry. It's not, it really isn't. We can enjoy the process. So it's just the first day or two where everything looks a mess, but just try and relax. It's all good in the end. Brilliant, he's just given me the thumbs up and pointing to a certain section which I think means he's going to release the water. Should be able to get some good footage of this. Before he lets the water through, let's just get a little gauge on how much it's going to drop. So, half a finger there. Just had to wait for Mrs. Hop along with her dodgy knee. We're all set. He's got a cigarette on, ready, special. We might see a few fish jumping. That's what it's like when we had the flood water. You careful, missus. Whoa! Bachon? Soon? Oh! Oh! I've seen 2 fish jumping. Wow! So much fun, see that. Still another couple of feet to go. Not a bad size Bachon, that. Or was it Chador? Wow. Happy, missus? Well, it's definitely dropped because we can see the shelf on the outside there. Not so much round there, but the left hand side, Poacher's Nook as it's known, that's the highest part of the shelf on the outside of the lake. I did think it was going to drop a little bit more. It just shows you the volume of water that the lake holds when it's full. Crazy. Excellent. So when he comes to decorate this bit here, he'll be taking that bit out. As he reverses out of there, he'll be taking a bit more out of there. Some of those that are eagle-eyed amongst you and know about building or digging ponds in Thailand, you generally have, well, most of our excavation on the lake has been at 45-degree slope. This is steeper where he's been doing it here. We're not too concerned about erosion because where we are in Kampang and certainly on our land, it's rock. It's a mixture of clay and rock. And if you've seen our other stock ponds, you'll see that the sides look like they've been carved out of rock. So the only bit we get is when you get really high water and we've got a real thin crust of topsoil. That tends to cut away a little bit, but not bothered about that. Excellent. Loads of little nooks and crannies to dangle your worm. Just over a finger, missus.